Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. The Olympics has ended, and I will tell you, first Olympics that I've watched where I cheered against Americans. Did any of you feel the same way? Hey, glad you guys are here. KJRadio.com is where you can find out more about the program, or you can call us at 844-551-8255. And as I was about to say to the leftists, or you can go to, no, I'm kidding. We love hearing from all of you. I like the naysayers. I like the ones that come correct. Like some guy writes me a note, you ain't nothing but a blah, 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 something negative. And I said something back negative to him. I tell people that follow me on my Twitter feed, I had a pastor. He's going to run for office. He saw me, he and his wife and another lady were together at a CPAC. He saw me, he says, yeah, Kevin. One of the ladies goes, Kevin, I follow you. I love your work. I follow you on Twitter. And I went, oh, Lord, like that. And she goes, no, it's okay. She goes, I get it. She goes, I understand what you're doing. She says, Jesus was no chump. I don't know if Jesus came over the top like I do when people write to me, but I know Jesus was no chump. And, and I said, I'm just warning you. Look, there's a side of me that I've got a temper for radio. And most of you that are listening to this program, you would never see the ugly side of Kevin Jackson, but he has an ugly side. Please be patient with me. God is not through with me yet. Tell people all the time, you come at me ugly, man, I'm going to respond ugly. But the way I respond isn't an attack on you personally. It's an attack on you for attacking me. Yeah, Jesus said, turn the other cheek. Yeah, turn the other cheek so you could do it with a spinning back kick. Swap. There's nothing that implies that you're just supposed to lay down. No, that's all I'm saying, man. You can't be coming after us repetitively and continuously and thinking that the whole time, I'm talking to leftists now, thinking that we're just going to completely lay down. We're going to, you know what? Say what you want about Christianity, say what you want about, all the issues, like the way we want you to raise kids, the way we want you to perceive people in the community. We are the most, how can you say, look, when you think of conservatism, you can only think of Christian, Judeo-Christian values and conservatism in the sense that nobody wants to hurt anybody else. We only want what's best for everybody. And you go, how can it be best for everybody? There are things that can be best for everybody. A safe community is best for everybody. Not, how do you measure that? How do you achieve that? It may require that you have to lock some people up. Well, Kevin, that right there is not best for everybody. Well, you know what? If that person that doesn't commit the crimes doesn't do it, it's a safe community. It's best for everybody. See, that's how liberals get you. How could it possibly be good if you're locking people away? Well, how could it possibly be good if people are doing the things that are getting them locked away? And I'm not talking about using the wrong pronoun in addressing somebody. Excuse me, sir. Oh, sir, I'm a madam. Well, I'm just looking at the Adam's apple in the beard. That's why I called you sir. Arrest that man. Now that's silly, but if somebody's beating up somebody for the wrong reason or stealing their car or murders or, commit some sort of heinous crime and Kevin, that's just bad. We can't do that. That's going to hurt that person. Well, that person should have thought about that. We live in a civilized society. Robin Cook wrote a book, I think it was called Oblivion. And there was a society where there was no crime. It's a really interesting book. I think it's called Oblivion. It's by Robin Cook. And these people find this new world. And people live forever. The only thing that will stop you from living forever is murder. If somebody kills you. But they have a society that's been peaceful and nobody dies. Which is a whole another interesting concept, because I think that in a society where you do have bad things that happen, you have to die. Think about it. If you live forever knowing what you know, how would you react if the only thing that could get you out of this society is death? You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about you would live forever. You can't die naturally. Somebody has to kill you. Cancer can't kill you. No disease, no pestilence, nothing like that. You have to be killed. What would society be? It's an interesting concept, isn't it? You guys are my producers are intrigued. Read that book. I'm serious. One of the best books I've ever read. Made me a Robin Cook fan. I think it's called Oblivion, but it may not be. It's a one-word title that begins with an O, I believe. Check it out. But that stuff makes you think. It makes you think about your mortality and all this. I'm going to tell you right now, in a world that we live in right now, you would be crazy to want to live forever, to watch people die in front of you for the most crazy reasons, and people blaming God. It's God's fault. Look at what God did. God puts us through situations to test us in ways that that are so far beyond our comprehension you don't even understand it. Me losing my mother, her birthday was yesterday. Talked about it. Me losing my mother at the age of 4, almost 5 years old, is a testament to what was God's plan for me. Many of you have traumas that you've gone through and you're going, what in the world is going on here? Why am I getting tested like this? And if you didn't have that, excuse me, if you didn't have that, you couldn't appreciate these other things. You wouldn't recognize the things that God wants you to see. Am I right? When things are going really well, you miss the things, some of the lessons of life they just zip right by you. Or you zip right by them. You're in euphoria. A girl on her wedding day. She didn't know. There's hardly anything you can tell her that's going to ruin her. I ain't letting anything ruin my day. You get what I'm saying? There are things where you just put the blinders on. You got to have that. And leftists get rid of that. They don't want anybody to go through that stuff. Never feeling that test. That's the deal. So when they're tested, they crumble. They literally crumble. Just little cupcakes, man. A pound cake, really dry one. You touch it and it crumbles. That's the way it is. So be glad for those tests. I want to talk about, I started talking about the Olympics. And first time I cheered against America. I bet many of you did the same thing. Lindsey Vonn. I did not want Lindsey Vonn to win anything. That skater. I don't even know his name. Not worth mentioning. I didn't want him to win. I'm not going to the White House. I don't want you to win. You feel bad about that? I don't.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is Jackson Radio Show.
They say NRA memberships are booming. That's right. The NRA, when Trump got elected, it was bad news for them. He's pro-Second Amendment, blah, blah, blah. NRA memberships are booming. Controversy, school shooting. Isn't that tragic that sometimes we as conservatives benefit over this? I was talking to a guy the other day, a brother at CPAC. I said to him about Ferguson, I said, sadly, the nonsense of Ferguson made me a national figure. I was on TV all the time. I was doing little things on Fox here and there. When that hit, I was all over Fox, all over CNN, building a name. What was I doing? Common sense. Telling people, hey, look, it's crazy to condemn a police officer for what appears to be him doing his job and for what appears to be a criminal, a criminal act committed by a kid who then tried to kill a cop. I mean, it was pretty clear to me, and I knew people were lying. I told people this when they said that Darren Wilson stuck his arm out the window and grabbed Michael Brown by the neck and by the throat. I was, okay, now I know, these silly Negroes telling lies. This ain't nothing but lies. And then at that point, I still said, give the man the benefit of the doubt. Oh, Uncle Tom, you this, that, and the other. But it took that story to make me national. And I tell people all the time, if you say, Kevin, if Ferguson never happened, and you were just doing your normal routine at Fox, which would probably mean I'm just kind of trucking along, would you be okay with that? My answer is a quick and emphatic yes. I would be more than okay with that. I would be more than okay with black people in the community saying, you know what? That kid was wrong. That cop did the right thing. Barack Obama and Eric Holder saying, City of Ferguson is exonerated, blah, blah, blah. And Kevin Jackson has done 100 less appearances or more on Fox than he had today. I would be more than happy for that. No problem at all. Because my cause is not about that. My cause is about waking black folks up. I would be more happy if it was 40% of blacks suddenly are looking at, voting Republican, 60% can vote Democrat. If I was able to accomplish that, and we're well on our way to it, by the way, we want to get to 20%. Now, my team is going, Kevin, we only need 11% and we're golden. Democrats are crushed. And I go, so what? They said Trump's at 9 or something like that. I'm like, why don't we double it? Well, we don't want people we claim we're going to double it and our donors then don't, get mad because we only got to 14%, which, by the way, would crush the Democrats. Okay. What? We don't get an A for effort? They would feel like their money was lost? What? They think we squandered their funds? What are you talking about? Why shouldn't we shoot for 20 or 25? I would rather have a stretch goal than to just barely be getting by. Look, we're showing that we can make an impact. For those of you who want to be a part of it, by the way, send us a note. KJRadio.com is where you can send us a note and get in the game. We're trying to get these affiliates set up around the country so we have people working actively to fund our projects and get us moving forward. We are going to move the black vote. That's my mission. That was my latest whisper from God. Anyway, that's not even what I want to talk about. President Trump's jumping on Schiff for the right reasons. He's a liar. But the other thing, I started the today's segments with the Olympics and how I cheered against America. Not the America as a whole at the Olympics, but certain people. I've never cheered against an individual in America who proudly wore that uniform and that flag. I've never cheered against them until this year. I cheered against two people that would dare open their mouths and disrespect the country, saying, "Oh, I'm not going to support Barack Obama. I'm not going to support Donald Trump. Ooh, thank goodness Barack Obama's gone. I'm not going to support Trump. I'm not going to the White House." And I was thinking to myself, who wants you there? Look, even the athletes, if you were, whatever the Olympics were happening during the time of Obama, I didn't care. If an Olympic athlete had said, "I don't support Barack Obama, I only support America," I would have been mad at that Olympian. I don't care anything about Obama from a policy perspective. I think he was a horrible president. But I would have been mad at an athlete who is representing this country in the time of whatever president. and said, I don't support him and I'm not going to the White House. That's why I can't stand these basketball players and these football players. I'm not going to go to the White House. I'm going to find a convenient excuse. I think it's silly. Anyway, Mirai Nagasu, I can't say her name, but she's one of our Olympic skaters. And here's how the article reads. The criticism piled on quickly for American Mirai Nagasu after the ladies' free skate. Not because of her underwhelming performance, she placed 10th overall after botching several of her jumps, but because of her puzzling post-game interview. The two-time Olympian offered up bizarre excuses for her and Team USA's lackluster showing in Pyeongchang. Everything from the lack of a warm shower to an early wake-up time to the team competition 2 weeks earlier was blamed for the U.S. worst showing in decades. Let me tell you why we have the worst showing in decades. What you heard her say described anybody? Anybody? Why didn't I win? Here are the litany of excuses as to why I didn't win, other than I didn't perform. And in the case of Nagasu, she can't say, well, I tried to hamstring my opponents. I tried to cut them off at the knees, pull a Tanya Harding, but it's her. She's the one that's not. I don't know what her role is, what she does. I know how it is to train to be a world-class athlete. I know that. So if either you spent the time or you didn't. But don't go talking about we didn't have a warm shower or it was too early to wake up. Are you kidding me? They said no one bought it, and days later, Nagasu offered a tearful apology in an interview with People magazine and attempted to clarify her post-skate sentiments. The Dancing with the Stars comment, where she said her skate was essentially an audition for the show, was a tactic her sports psychologist recommended to distract her from the pressure of the moment. She said that. Maybe I was just, trying to get on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, I didn't watch the interview. I didn't follow this Olympics very much, except I was shocked to hear that the men's curlers won, and they didn't dope. Wow. She said it wasn't meant to come across as ungracious or flippant. It was a result from mental exhaustion. This is a skater, folks. We're not talking about a Navy SEAL coming back from war. She says, I don't know if I can stress enough how mentally exhausting this all is. I feel especially bad that my comments weren't a good representation of me, and I came off really poorly. Look, I get it. It is when you're at that level of competition, it is a different ball game. But really, that's what you come back with? You got why can't you just come back with the normal thing that says, look, I didn't skate my best. I blew it. I could have done better. We had a lot of pressures on us, and unfortunately, I didn't rise to the occasion. Whatever. There's 500 things this woman could have said, but she's instead giving the Hillary Clinton litany. Well, it was the Russians that did it. It was Donald Trump's grabbing women by the that made me do it. It was conservatives. I didn't want to represent America knowing that. I don't know what all she said, but can you believe that? That's the nation we built. Those are the Olympians we send now.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
What's up, America? Kevin Jackson. Here's the Kevin Jackson Show. So I mentioned there's bad news. Let's just put it out there. There's bad news. Now, it's not for us. Thankfully, the bad news is on the left. Now, let me give you some examples. I mentioned this earlier. The NRA is booming. The NRA they were at 4-point-something million not long ago. They're over 5 million. With all this stuff that's happening with the shooting, Parkland shooting, membership is going through the roof. People who have regular memberships have upgraded. People who had no memberships at all, who said they would never join the NRA, have joined. I tell you, the NRA, as sad as it is to say, they make money on the tragedies like what we just witnessed with Parkland. They make crazy money. And what's funny is the left they would have fewer guns in America if they got off the gun control freak nonsense. There'd be many fewer guns. And let me tell you, if the left just did what was right for the country, there would be no need for as many guns. Many of us would just be collectors. You better have a firearm with you if you live inside of an urban indoctrination center. If you're in the suburbs, like let's say it's Dallas, Texas, or Cleveland, Ohio, or Detroit, Michigan. I don't care whether you live in Livonia, Michigan, or wherever. If you live in Plano, right out on the outskirts of Dallas, it doesn't matter where you live. You better have a firearm. A buddy of mine who's a he used to be ATF, but now he's ATE or ATFE or whatever. But all of these guys that I talk to say it is better to have a gun when you need it and face the criminal charges than it is to not have one. I'm just telling you. And the way that they're trying to restrict you is very sneaky. But here's the thing. I'm going to make a prediction. Number one, the NRA will continue to grow and gun knowledge will increase. And the more the gun knowledge increases and the more adamant we remain about our Second Amendment, the worse it is for the left. And the companies who decided that they were going to remove the NRA from their, discount list, who want to ignore 5 million people, they're going to suffer. National, Alamo, Symantec, LifeLock, all those companies will suffer. It's the Trump, you can call it the Trump curse, but I call it the Trump effect. Donald Trump, if you go against him, you're going to suffer. And the reason is very simple. It isn't because Trump is Trump. It has nothing to do with that, in fact. For those of you out there saying, oh, Kevin, I know you're just a Mr. Donald Trump guy. No. It's a very simple thing. A very simple what was I going to say? What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it's simple. It's common sense. See, what Donald Trump does is he understands common sense. I realize for leftists out there listening, and even for some of my conservative friends that are out there listening, they're like, what's Kevin going to say? You were hanging on my every word. It's common sense. Because as the old saying goes, common sense ain't so common anymore. Donald Trump is using common sense. When he talks about gun control at schools, putting not gun control, but, putting guns in schools, I should say. The gun control freaks and nuts go, oh my gosh, he's actually going to solve the problem. I want you to picture a world where you don't have massive Muslim killings. You don't have massive shootings in schools. I want you to picture that world. Let's go a year where we don't have a mass shooting in a school because teachers are armed or we have armed veterans or whatever. Let's just go 1 year. Watch what happens. Let Donald Trump get his way, and you're going to find out people are going to freak out. It's going to be something else worked. It'll disappear. You'll hear nothing about it. You got to love this guy. It's common sense, folks. There's no mystic, no magical stuff here. And by the way, if you're listening to this program and you think that Kevin Jackson, he's amazing, he's so smart. No. It's just, here we go again, common sense. I may put a little funny spin on it from time to time. I may dress it up, put a little bow tie on it, striped shirt, the little sailor hat, but all I'm doing is giving you common sense. I mean, it's funny to me because I'm going, wow, people really love some common sense. Oh, man. I would love to make myself bigger than what I am in this regard. Actually, I wouldn't. But it's fun to think of it as like, yeah, there's that man on TV, the purveyor of common sense. I'm sitting there and it's, common sense. I got my badge on, common sense. People, how do I get that badge? I want that badge. Hey, folks, I'm gonna clue you in on a little something. You've got it. That's why you're here. And all I'm doing is validating your common sense. Because you know what? People have challenged your, what's the word? Come on, somebody help me. Sensibilities. See, you have common sensibilities. The things that everybody knows. You want to raise your kids in nice, safe neighborhoods. Nobody wants to raise their kids in unsafe neighborhoods. Can I get an amen? Right. You want your kids to go to school, and you want them to, you want to help? I'll give you a little help. Starts with an L, ends with an N. It's called learn. You want your kids to learn. You don't want your kids going to school for socialization and all that. That's going to happen. They live in the world. But what are we discussing? We're discussing, and I love how the left is, we need common sense gun reform. Common sense gun reform. They understand that what they do is uncommon sense. So they tell you that what you're thinking is nonsensical. It's crazy that you would want more guns. You would want people using a firearm to protect your children. How crazy are you to want to protect your children? What are you? Is you ignorant? And you're going, well, but I mean, it would make sense if people come in and shoot kids in the school, that there would be somebody on. That's just crazy talk right there. And you go, well, maybe my common sense is, and it gets challenged. And I'm sorry to tell you, but you get a little weak in the knees, and you're going, well, maybe they're right. I mean, more guns doesn't seem to be the answer when there's guns. Oh, really? Tell the military that. Yeah. Would you rather be overgunned or undergunned? Yeah. By the way, what's his name? The one that Geronimo or somebody killed? Whoever it was Custer? Thank you. Custer? You think when Custer met with the Indians and they had those long rifles and they were picking off Custer's men, because Custer was used to the rifles that they had that didn't fire quite as far? Yeah. See, common sense gun reform would have been for Custer to find out what weapons they had, so he had bigger weapons. That would have been common sense gun reform. But we don't talk about common sense. Let me ask you this. What is common sense about having a sovereign nation full of citizens who pay their taxes and pay their dues and do things by the book, and then you let other people come in without any checks and balances, nothing? They just come right in and they can immediately get on a system that they've paid not a dollar into. They can get on Social Security, they can get on welfare, they can jump on to into medical, into your education system and all that, and haven't paid a nickel. What kind of common sense is that? What kind of common sense is it to bring in refugees who you suddenly realize, wow, we're having a lot more terror attacks, we're having a lot more rapes, a lot more crime? What kind of common sense is that? Oh, it's not humanitarian not, to want to get these people or whatever. They will use whatever twisted logic they have to challenge your common sense. And it is kind of humanitarian. I mean, look at where these people live in. Okay, let Abdul sleep in your house, and you have a daughter pregnant, and she'll be, practicing Islam soon, and you'll be dead. I'm not trying to be mean-spirited to him. I'm just telling you, these are the things that happen. So when you come listen to me, I'm just giving you a dose of common sense. I'm just telling you, look, folks, I got no skin in the game in the sense of I love all people, but I'm going to watch you. I'm going to observe. And when I observe certain trends, I go, it's really funny. The more Muslims we let in this country, the more of this, and this that occurs. Oh, by the way, I've noticed they don't respect our laws. I've noticed they don't respect our religion. I've noticed they don't respect our way of life. And you know what else I've noticed? The crap hole country that they've come from is nothing that I would want to live in. So why would I bring it here? It's their job to adjust to us, not the other way around. So look, folks, common sense. Donald Trump comes out and he says, I'm going to close the borders. I'm going to stop these bad Islamic, terrorists from coming in. I'm going to give you common sense tax reform, which means I'm going to give you your money back because you're a better steward of your money than the government is. I guarantee you. I'm going to do the things that make sense, real sense. And the left fights him because they're idiots. They have not an ounce of common sense among the millions of them.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Feinstein's in big trouble. Bad news for the Democrats. There's a lot of bad news for the Democrats. When we, the next hour, I want to talk about a guy who wrote a piece that said 2018 was going to be bad for the Republicans. I'm telling you, we're going to pick this dude apart. He's a Republican, a former congressman out of New York. Which it's funny. There's no such thing as a Republican in New York for the most part. Oh, Kevin, they got Long Island, they got this, that. Let me tell you, you can't. It's hard to be a Republican in New York. It just is. It's just the nature of the beast. But anyway, this guy writes a piece in Huffington Post talking about how bad it's going to be in 2018 for the Republicans, and he's using the Mueller investigation as part of that. Let me just tell you something. When you hear this, when I talk about this in the program later, you're going to crack up. You're going to say to yourself, these people really are delusional. But there's always a glimmer of hope somewhere. Quite frankly, it's not even a glimmer. It's like a big shining light in my face that I'm having to put my hand up. That's how much light has been shined on the Democrats. Let me put it another way. Would you prefer to be a Republican or a Democrat this year? Election year. I know what I would be. And I'm not look, I don't care about the Republicans. I don't. I told you guys, everybody listens to me. I tell you, I have an affinity for Republicans because they freed my people. But outside of that, I have no affinity for Republicans. I don't see any difference really between the two. But what I do know is this. The Republicans have figured it out. They figured out that Donald Trump knows how to win. Now, they support him because he wears an R at the end of his name. But for Trump, the R means nothing. Just put a T. There's a new party, the Trump Party. And all it is pragmatic Americans. Pragmatist. Make it the pragmatist party. Pragmatic party. Whatever you want to call it. But it's people that look at things through the lens of what I said earlier, of common sense. And they say, here's the way this should work. You look for solutions. Imagine if companies ran like politics. Well, guess what? You don't have to imagine too much because most of them do now. But before, when all they cared about was making a better product, servicing their customers better, you have successful companies. That's what our government is supposed to do. It's supposed to be looking for a better product, servicing its customers better, and therefore government flourishes. But so does the general population. You can offer a product or service, make your profits, do well, and people that take it, that get to partake of that service or that product feel good about it. Everybody wins. Right now, the government is making an inferior product. And it's telling you, you should love our product. And you're going, I don't love this product. This product stinks, man. This product is not a good product. And they're going, well, you're going to take it anyway, and we're going to make it more expensive. And Donald Trump says, nope, I'm going to make a better product, and here's a rebate. Here's your tax cut already because we've been ripping you off on the existing product. If you think about this from pure manufacturing point of view, that's what's going on. Donald Trump says, we've been manufacturing bureaucracy. It's been hindering you in every way, shape, and form. So I'm going to cut the manufacturing process. We're going to cut off all that crap that you no longer want. We've done an analysis, a study, a survey of all the things you want from my new widget, and we're cutting out the nonsense. And by the way, by cutting it out, it's simplifying it, making it easier for you to use. So imagine the old days of television where, the cable company had to come out to fix your cable. Cable now, they if you got a cable, you call, you say, hey, my cable's out. They go, oh, what's up? And they can literally send a signal and do all this stuff remotely. That's better service. And that's what you're looking for that. Trump is saying, I'm going to take the cable industry and I'm going to make it easier for you. Everything that you used to do where you had to get in your car and come down here and all that, I'm going to make it all easy. And I'm going to take out the middleman and all these other things. I'm going to give you much bigger selection. And hopefully I'm going to lower the price. Now, I can't say that's what's happened to cable, but you get my point. And so he's saying, I'm going to streamline government. I'm going to make it better for you. And I'm also going to get rid of the people who are looking to just add to your angst. So we're going to get rid of them. And it's working. That's what he does. And the left hate him for that because you're getting part of your money back. You're actually having a better experience at the office than you were before. But here's what's interesting is with all his power, what Trump ends up being is our best employee. He's our best employee. He's not somebody that we go to and go, Mr. President, please help. He's just our best employee. He's the guy you go, man, I can't wait for that Donald Trump to get to work. But we, the people, we are the employers. So I want you to flip the structure, the corporate structure upside down and put the pyramid on its tip and flip it up. You now, that big base is now the president, and it all filters down to the best employee. And what that best employee does is he says, okay, I'm the tip of this pyramid, and I'm the one that's teetering. You know, everything teeters on me. But if he straightens out 435 congressmen and 100 senators, he gets a little more of a square foundation. If you add in that layer of the judiciary, however many judges we have, he gets even more square of the foundation. And if he does it correctly, we're no longer a pyramid. We're just a big flat box or a rectangle just sitting firmly on the ground. That's the way it should be. It shouldn't be a pyramid. It should be one flat foundation where we all represent each other and we look for the best. And that's not what's happening. And see, here's the deal. The Democrats don't, as I said, the signs are there. Feinstein, she was speaking at some event, the California Democrat Party convention, and before she could even finish her speech, they start playing music. You know, and so she keeps talking. And the more she talks, the louder the music gets. And then here's what she says. I guess my time is up. How prophetic. I guess my time is up. You know what, Barbara Feinstein? Concealed and carry weapon holder with security still? Your time is up. In this article, they said it's a sign of things to come. And the audience was chanting, your time is up. Your time is up. 25 years in the Senate, coming up for re-election. Her time is up. Now, here's the bad news for us. Do you think they're going to put somebody in that's got common sense, somebody that's going to support our policies? No, they're going to put in a radical. That's what they're going to do. But what it is a sign that the Democrats have finally gotten it. And what they're going to do is they're going to finally get around to doing what we've been doing as conservatives and Republicans for quite some time, which is getting rid of the riffraff. I love that the number of Republicans who said, I'm not running for office. Now, the Democrats go, they're vulnerable. And those we're going to go and get them. They're not going to win those seats. They're not. The Democrats this is the most vulnerable election cycle in their history. In their history. They're going to lose again. They're going to lose more seats in the Senate. They're going to lose seats in the House. And Donald Trump, in 2020, he's going to get reelected, undoubtedly. You can rest easy. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get out to vote and do all the things you should be doing. You should still be changing hearts and minds. But trust me, you're in good shape. 2018 is going to be the worst year in the Democrat Party's history, and you're already seeing the signs. Tell me a time when Feinstein would have been challenged. People like her die in office. People they've already been calling for Pelosi to go. She fought it off at the beginning. She's not fighting it off anymore. Maxine Waters has a challenger. These perennial dinosaurs, Democrat dinosaurs, have been out there for some time. But now they're being replaced. Now in California, they're being replaced by even worse people. That's okay. Don't cry for California. California is going to get what it gets. It's like when I think of California, I think of how America elected Barack Obama, where it was like, he's going to be changed. They're going to put in all these bad banditos out in California. It's going to go into the crapper. There's going to end up being some sort of federal oversight of California because it's so wacky. For example, teachers can't shoot back at people shooting at them. That's how wacky it is. A person can give you HIV and it's no big deal. Why? Because the stigma of death is no longer whatever. They can do that. And a host of other things that state does that makes no common sense whatsoever. It makes no sense on any. If you're about the public good, none of these things makes any sense at all. Sanctuary cities, it makes no sense. Totally against the law. There's no question it's against the law. Ask if California cares.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. The Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
All right, everybody. I told you, bad news for the left. Donald Trump's approval ratings higher than they've ever been. We got the scandal of the Russians going on. We got the NRA stuff going on with the rifles, and Donald Trump's a pro-Second Amendment guy. Woo, and his ratings are higher than ever. And let me tell you, coming back on the heels of CPAC, I was there. I'm going to tell you something, folks. I watched Donald Trump at complete ease. If anything should scare the Democrats, it's what Donald Trump said when he made this comment. Donald Trump said, you know what? This is we're finally getting under our belts, our first year under our belts. And, you got all this change going on. It's kind of difficult to step into this job. But you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about it. That's the scariest statement that the Democrats they missed it. Glad you guys are here. It's Kevin Jackson Show. KJRadio.com, 844-551-8255. What did they miss? They missed the idea that Donald Trump said, I didn't even necessarily know what I was doing. I don't mean that as a slam. He's saying I had to get adjusted. He was adjusting and had the best year in modern presidential history. Better than Reagan. Do I need to go any further? Better than Reagan. And he was still trying to find his sea legs. Donald Trump's going, I knew there were things I could get done, and I got a lot of that stuff done. But I will look back on this year and say I'm a rank rookie. Let me tell you what I used to do. I'd start my new job, and of course I had copious notes. I had all kinds of notes. And I remember when I went from engineering into sales, and I had all my notes, and I was transitioned into sales. And I looked at my notes for the first year. Actually, it was the first 7 or 8 months. So not the whole year, but for the first 7 or 8 months. And I remember when I finally started getting productive, it was around a year that I started really seeing the difference in how I was making a difference. And I looked back at my first 7-8 months of notes and went, man, this was all garbage. None of these things led to the sales I was expecting or anything like that. It was garbage. It was training me, but I didn't have anything productive. Donald Trump is looking back at his first year and he's going, I got a lot accomplished. He's going, I got my tax reform done. We got businesses moving back. I stopped businesses from leaving. We've got consumer confidence through the roof. We've got people working in jobs. Wages are rising and on. And he goes, and I was still trying to figure things out. That was what I considered to be the low-hanging fruit. That's what we talk about. When you go into sales and you get a territory, the first thing you do is you go, okay, Tell me where the low-hanging fruit is. And what that means is stuff that I can just go get. What am I going to get out of this territory if you put a baboon here? And they go, well, Kevin, you're going to get about $1 million out of General Dynamics or, Lockheed. You're going to get this much out of, LTV Vought, who's probably McDonnell Douglas now. You're going to get, and they tell you, you're going to do, there's $5 million in the territory, whether you're here or not. Now, if your quota is 10 or 15 million, what they're telling you is you got to go generate another 5 to 10 million. So what you do is you look at your low-hanging fruit and you say, okay, I can get that. Now, how can I piggyback onto these deals and maybe get that up to $7.5 to $8 million in my low-hanging fruit? So I only have to generate 2 to 7 million based on my quota. And so that's how you would evaluate it. And when you're looking at that territory, then you're going, okay, well, now give me the new stuff. Because now I know I can go, here's my low-hanging fruit. Here's where I can add to my low-hanging fruit. Now I got $2 to $7 million that I'm going to have to go find. And what happens is when you're good at what you do, you figure out how to find it. What you do then is you look at commonalities. Where am I selling the same parts? Maybe I could offer a discount if these guys, buy as a consortium and things like this. You get very creative. What I'm saying to you folks is this. Donald Trump is about to hit creative mode. Woo! If the left think they had problems with Donald Trump in, low-hanging fruit mode, wait till this guy starts looking at government and going, you know what? We've got 50 agencies doing the same thing. We're cutting them. We've got commonalities here that we could be doing this. When he starts pulling levers, as sharp as this guy is, because I know they say he's dumb. He's not dumb. He's one of the brightest guys you're going to meet. When Donald Trump starts pulling levers, when he starts getting strategic, see, here there's a thing in business. People call, okay, so just to give you a quick explanation, there's what's called tactical stuff, and then there's called strategic. So you have your tactical strategy, and you have your long-term strategy, tactical and strategic. So in tactical, you're just looking at what are the things that I can do to keep the company afloat. Tactical means, for example, we can limit our inventory. We can build to order. We can do these tactics that keep our inventory down and what we need to bring in, what we need to go out, and etc. But your long-term strategy will be decrease my supply chain, expense by 25% or 23% or cut it. So the long-range strategy of everything is we're going to go to just-in-time delivery. We're going to have our factories that support our products build their factories around us, and we're going to make them maintain inventory. We're going to have return policy that doesn't allow for returns of specials, but will take back standard products, and et cetera, et cetera. So those are going to be your strategic moves. And there's tactical, but there's one thing before that I figured out. It's called transactional. And it means that you got to be keeping the wheels on the wagon every single day. Something has to be coming in. So here's what I'm saying. Donald Trump is gone. Certainly we're beyond transactional. We're beyond tactical now that Donald Trump has got the economy shored up to a big degree. And he's looking at trade policies and things like this that I told everybody are going to kick in a tsunami of growth in 2018. But now he's looking at strategic. What can we do long term to China? What can we do long term to Russia? What can we do long term to keep stability in the Balkans and in Europe and so on and so forth? And that should be the scariest thing for the left that they've ever faced in their lives, because this is a guy who understands it and he can get it done. So his approval ratings are going up. And you're going to watch them continue to go up, and that doesn't bode well for the left going into 2018. And we're going to talk about 2018 a lot this hour. So glad you guys are here. Kevin Jackson Show back again.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful four-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
To say that the left suffered delusion is just the biggest understatement I can make today. It's crazy out there for them, but let's dissect it, shall we? Glad you guys are here. Kevin Jackson's who you're listening to, 844-551-8255 if you want to chime in on this. But I was reading an article in Huffington Post. It's an opinion piece written by a Republican, believe it or not. His name is Le Bouillier, something like that. He's a Republican out of New York. And he outlines these, he kind of outlines them. There's 28 points. And I'm going to spend a lot of this hour talking about it, but it's funny to me listening to this guy. He might as well be a Democrat. And he's writing this piece to apparently make Democrats feel good about their prospects for 2018. And they completely are opposite of what I say. And it reminds me of Carville when Barack Obama got elected, and he's talking about, the Republicans ain't going to win the election for the next 100 years. And I was like, what? He's crazy. Look, Obama was the belle of the ball when Carville made that statement when he got elected. And I said to a CEO friend of mine, who believed him and had spent a lot of money hearing Carville consult with him, and I said to him, that dude is so wrong. If you follow the doctrines of this guy, your business will suffer and your credibility will suffer. I go, he completely missed the mark. And I said, let me tell you why. First of all, I said the guy that they've put in charge, Barack Obama, is an idiot. He knows nothing about the economy. His degrees, by the way, even if he had an economics or finance degree, it would still be useless. But he has no knowledge of it. He has no knowledge of your business, how to run your business, the things you need, and he is going to put more bureaucracy on you than you can shake a stick at, and that's going to hurt you. So be looking at thinning out the herd. And by the way, at the prospect of Obama getting elected, I remember this. I was still in management consulting, and many of my customers said to me, Kevin, we're afraid of this guy, but we can't speak out about it. And we're going to cut 10% of our workforce in anticipation. Many of the companies, largest companies in the world, people, we're not talking about losing 5 jobs. We're talking about losing thousands. They said, we're cutting across 10%. And I said to them, look, guys, I get the panic, but you can't take a meat cleaver to it. You need to be more surgical. And they said, we'll deal with that later. And they were cutting 10% of their workforces. Go back and look. You don't have to believe me. Late 2008 and certainly early 2009, people were just slashing jobs. They were prepping for higher taxes and more bureaucracy, and they were right to do it. Anyway, let's jump into what this guy says. He says 2018 will be a very rough year for President Trump and almost catastrophic for the Republican Party, which has morphed into the Trump Party. Now, I could stop right there and just tell you how bad a miscalculation this is by this guy. Former congressman from New York, Republican, who says that the Republican Party morphing into the Trump Party is a bad thing. Allow me to explain how bad he misses the mark. The Republican Party has been damaged goods for the better part of a decade. They can't get anything accomplished. And the fact that Donald Trump was able to galvanize 51 Republicans to do something that would have been considered controversial is one thing. But now that they've seen success, it's game on. Republicans are going to clamor to be part of the Trump. So, and I get, look, we look at public opinion and we see all these, these lower level people. I don't know what to call them, but really and truly that they're so misinformed, and we normally don't get to them. Trump gets to them, and it makes sense to them. They get it. You want to know why? Because believe it or not, as dumb as the American public can be at times, and as brainwashed as it can be, there are times when they go, this doesn't smell right. They even sense it. So you've got Democrats. We talked about Feinstein earlier. She's not a shoo-in any longer. She's probably going to get voted out. How many Democrats do you think are going to run from Adam Schiff? How many of them? I'll put it to you this way. Look at the top Democrats. Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and name any of them you want. Ask yourself, how many Democrats are going to want to campaign with any of them? If you were a Democrat in anywhere in the country practically, would you want to campaign with Pelosi? Would you want to campaign with Joe Biden? Would you want to campaign with Barack Obama? Who do you want to campaign with? Now I'll ask the question a different way. Republicans all around the country, do you want Donald Trump campaigning with you? Now, I'm going to leave it to you and your common sense to determine, I wonder, which one of those scenarios I would rather have. Let me put it to you this way. You'd rather be a Republican who Donald Trump will campaign for. That's what you want. But this guy says the Republican Party morphing into the Trump Party is a bad thing. No, that means it's becoming a party. It's becoming something to stand for. And no matter what these leftists try to do to demoralize the Trump voter, it doesn't happen. CPAC did a straw poll. It said 93% of the people that were at CPAC supported Donald Trump, which means CPAC has 7% leftist. That's all it means. Donald Trump is practically universally supported by the people that voted him in, and believe it or not, he's added tons. I don't need to go into the numbers, but he talks about last week's, this is point number 2, last week's Quinnipiac poll, while 66% of Americans rate the economy either excellent or good, only 36% approve of the job the president is doing. That's what he says. And then he says, normally those approval ratings track with the economy. So what he's trying to convince you of is that 66% of the people love what Donald Trump is doing, but only 36% of those people approve of him. Okay? Now, I don't know how many people it takes to get elected in America, but I'm going to say it was roughly 50-50 between the stupid people that voted for Hillary Clinton and, of course, we sane folks. So if you want to try to convince me that 14% of us who voted for Trump now don't believe in him, am I the one that's delusional? I rest my case. Then he goes on to say this. Trump's bad behavior, his divisive, boastful, dishonest, egotistical, infantile, self-aggrandizing personality has made it impossible for most people to give him credit for anything. Now, see, I love this part. A guy who is demonized by the media, they don't want to give him credit. When he says, I saved Kerry, he didn't save Kerry, Barack Obama saved Kerry. Oh, really? So Barack Obama, who had conceded, the Kerry was going to leave, he's now the savior of Kerry. It's ridiculous to give Barack Obama any credit for this economy, and they've done polling, and I've seen it. It's literally flipped. It's so magical to look at. How many people credited Obama early on, and now it's flipped. And you know what? It's going lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, matching Trump's approval rating as it goes higher. But this guy remains delusional, and he wants to demoralize you. More on this when I return. Keep it here.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
So this guy writes an article that gives 28 reasons or so of why Donald Trump's going to have a bad 2018. So are you and I, we conservatives and the Republicans, are going to have a bad year. And I've already gone through part of it. And I'm telling you, if this is the logic that they use, it doesn't surprise me how they get their butts kicked and don't understand why. Here's the next one. Number 5, he says, this boastful, dishonest behavior of Donald Trump, the guy claimed in issue number 4, he says it's rubbed off on the Republican Party, and now the polls show that Democrats have a double-digit lead in generic polling on the question of who do you want to control Congress in November? And I love these polls. They'll ask somebody in a totally Republican district, who do you want to control Congress? And they go, I want the Democrats to control it. And they say, that's our barometer. We ask 1,000 people who they want it. They ask 1,000 Democrats, who do you want to control Congress? And the majority of them say, well, we think Democrats should. And they run away with their polling going, see, they want us to control. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Let me just, I'm going to tell you guys again, the Congress will be in control. And I know that historically it's not good news for Donald Trump. Theoretically, a new president coming in, freshman type guy, usually he loses in the midterm. And that's because he doesn't do anything. Democrats worship these polls, and they forget. These polls are built on presidents who do nothing, who by the time the midterms roll around, they're still trying to fumble through their way and figure out how to get on Air Force One. Donald Trump has been a successful year one president, and with everything that's brewing, because I'm telling you, the drip that comes out of this Mueller stuff is not going to be good for the left. But that's what he says. But here's what he says in number 6. Such a sizable lead, more than 10 months from the midterm, and in an economy that 66% rates so well, shows that the driving force in 2018 is all anti-Trump. Okay, let's run with that logic. Let's say that the driving force is anti-Trump. Okay? What do you think's going to happen as Trump, item by item, gets vindicated? Item by item. I love how they try to make stuff stick. Go back 2 weeks ago and ask me, what were they talking about with Trump? They had revitalized some prostitution thing, right? Who even knows? He's still a racist. None of it sticks. Remember, less than a week ago, it was all about the 13 Russian indictments and the FISA memo prior to that and whatever else. And now, what are we talking about? We're talking about gun control. And Trump has come out and said, you know what? I know what you want me to do, leftists. You think you've backed me into a corner on gun control. You've done nothing of the sort. I'm going to arm the schools. What? And what about DACA? Has anybody talked about DACA? May 5th was the date that was looming, right? We haven't even talked about it. The Democrats have completely taken their eye off the ball on DACA. Don't misunderstand me. Donald Trump hasn't. And because they've been backed in a corner on that. They moved over to the gun control issue because DACA failed. When have you ever heard of the Democrats jumping off of something like DACA where they've got Mexicans involved? Democrats thought they had Donald Trump by the short hairs, and they are finding they can move from issue to issue, and Trump just says, you know what? I'm going to give you common sense. Why does that work? Because even at the base level of this the proletariat, people go, I get it. Talk about guns in the black community and watch what people say. They understand it. Now he goes on. Of course, Trump is not on the ballot in 2018, so the Republican candidates will serve as Trump's surrogate punching bags, and the voters will take their wrath out on them. I don't even know why he made that a point. because it's essentially saying the same thing. He says, thus, so many House GOP retirements, thus so much money raised by so many Democrat candidates, thus so many impassioned female Democrat candidates running nationwide. So they believe that they're going to put their savior in feminism, that people are going to go, we didn't get Hillary, so we're going to get a bunch of females elected. Let me tell you something. It isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. I don't know whether Republicans will run females, but the Republican candidates are going to win. There are no such thing as Republican punching bags if you support Donald Trump. And I go back to the question I asked earlier. Who would you rather have? Trump running with you during your time as a Republican, or would you rather have Barack Obama running with you if you were a Democrat? You don't like Barack Obama? What about Hillary Clinton? You don't like Hillary Clinton? What about Bernie Sanders? You don't like Bernie Sanders? What about Joe Biden? Pick me a Democrat that somebody tells me I want this person running with me as I face off against my challenger. Because if Donald Trump goes to any territory, anybody's election, anybody's race, campaign, he's going to light it on fire in a good way. En fuego. He goes on to say this. Clearly, the GOP's hope that the tax bill will spur even more economic growth and thus will mitigate the damage Trump himself is doing to their election chances is misguided. In fact, Trump's recent behavior is actually growing even more toxic and negative. Yeah, his recent behavior of what? Of going out and telling people in the trade. I mean, I love that CPAC. He says, look, I like Chairman Xi of China. I think he's an amazing guy. But we're going to address our trade issue with him. No question about it. And that's a guy that's telling you, I can like the guy, but we're going to do fair trade. And you haven't heard of China manipulating the currency any longer. You haven't heard of the cabal between the Chinese and the Russians getting together to take us off the dollar standard for oil. You haven't heard of these things. These were things being actively talked about during the time of Obama. But what's funny about it is, he's telling you exactly what's going to happen. The tax bill will be the determining factor of why the Democrats lose. If there's any one thing that you'll be able to point to, it will be the tax bill. The fact that hundreds of thousands, if not millions of hundreds of thousands of people got their bonuses, okay, from the companies. That's one. Number two, millions of people saw that increase in their paychecks and went, wow. And they know where it came from. And they got April 15th to think about it going into the election of this year. And I'm telling you, they're going to be liking the fact that they got that little extra change. Democrats can dismiss this. They can pretend that it's no big deal. But it's a big deal. And that's why this guy's writing about it. And he's a so-called Republican from New York. Le Boulier or something like that. I don't even know his name. Here's number 10. The passion differential favors Democrats because female voters, minority voters, young voters, and independents are turning against Trump and GOP in droves. What planet does this guy live on? We've talked for the last, 3 weeks, poll after poll, after the State of the Union speech, 93% of Republicans, Trump said, knocked it out of the park. 43% of Democrats knocked it out of the park. 72% of independents. Now, forget the Republican, forget the independents. 43% of Democrats said, I like what I heard. Then on the heels of that, they started measuring the economy and things like this. Tax.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Talking delusional Democrats, folks. An article written in the Hill by a guy named John Leboutillier or something like that. He's a former Republican out of New York, and he's giving us all the reasons why 2018 is going to be a bad year for us. Bad year. Woo! Welcome back. Kevin Jackson here is who you're listening to. KJRadio.com. We're up to number 13, I think, of 28 here. Let me see. Yeah, 13 of 28 reasons why we got bad news coming in 2018, which, by the way, is completely opposite of what I say. I say the Democrats are going to have the worst year of their political year. And quite frankly, 2016 could be considered one of them because guess what happened? We got Donald Trump elected. 2017, you could say, well, that was bad because Donald Trump had an amazing first year, best year one of modern presidency, and perhaps the best year one of the republic. All right. And now we're into year two. And the Democrats are saying, this guy, John LeBoutier, who calls himself a Republican, former New York City congressman, who says, no, it's going to be bad for the Republicans because they want to demoralize you. See, they're used to dealing with weak-minded people. They're used to dealing with people when they go, well, Kevin, you know, y'all was slaves and stuff, and you had a lack of civil rights. And I was going, well, actually, they wouldn't be talking in the slave terms. I would. But I'd be like, oh, well, thank you for pointing that out, Miss Massel John Boutilier. But they don't get it. We are immune to their nonsense. There is no kryptonite for Superman. You know, Dr. Somebody got a cure for him because we don't care. Here's what this guy goes on to say, though. In his first year, this is number 13. In his first year, despite his behavioral deficits, the GOP did get federal appointments and Supreme Court nominees Neil Gorsuch done. Now, let me just tell you, that's bad English because he's telling you in his first year, despite his behavioral deficits, he's supposed to tell you who. He was supposed to be telling you about Trump, but instead he tells you the GOP did get federal court appointments. So he should have said Trump got federal court appointments and Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch done, did confirm cabinet officers who are now deregulating, did cut corporate taxes. These were all Trump campaign promises, and to his credit, he kept his promises. So now I'm beginning to think, is this guy writing a piece to make people understand what Trump actually has done? You know, I'm thinking, did he shift gears on me? Because he's exactly right. Trump got all that done in year one, despite his behavioral deficits. And despite being demonized by the polls and demonized by the media to where his poll numbers are supposedly so low that nobody should be able to get anything done. But here's where he goes on number 14. But the GOP and President Trump failed monumentally at doing what they promised over 4 election cycles from 2010 to 2016, and that's to replace Obamacare with something better. Here's what I'm going to guarantee you. Donald Trump will get Obamacare done. It'll be completely obliterated. He mentioned at CPAC that we've got these new plans coming up, and when they come up, it's going to make Obamacare look very anemic. But he says this. That failure, along with Trump's dyspeptic personality, is why the GOP has so little national support. Okay, I'll bite. So then in number 15, the 2017 agenda was traditional republicanism. He calls that a negative. Traditional republicanism says, I'm going to put the money in your pockets. You're going to go do what you do, and we're going to give you an economy where you can flourish. He thinks that's bad. So be it. Here's number 16. But there is no agenda for 2018. In fact, the GOP-controlled Congress and executive branch cannot even pass a continuing resolution to keep the government open for a few weeks. So, again, is this really one of these things that should be a bullet point, that the obstructionist Democrats don't want to allow the government to be funded so that they can continue to try to play the game with these different things like DACA? How'd that work out for them when they shut down the government? Did they win? Who's winning in the DACA debate? Let me tell you how you know who's winning in the DACA debate. You're not hearing about it. If the Democrats were winning in the DACA debate, you'd be hearing about it like, oh, man, the Mexican kids are doing this and that. Right now, they've shifted gears. We're talking about guns. What have they done? They brought out all these oppressed high school kids who now around the country are worried about guns shooting up their schools. Let me tell you, they're not worried about guns shooting up their schools in most of these suburbs where it's a majority of white kids. They're not worried about it. These kids are learning. They are dealing with behavioral issues. Parents are involved. The whole thing. They're only worried about these in the random cases where the school and the system and everything breaks down. That's what they're worried about. But what do the Democrats do? They load up the airways with all these sob stories of kids saying, we can't stand that Donald Trump didn't protect our schools. Really? So let me ask you, how long was that school unprotected? How long have they known about this radical kid? These schools that have been unprotected were unprotected for the same 8 years under Barack Obama. You're not going to make people believe that this is a Trump problem, and he's not going to take it either. Then they said this. And when asking Democrats for some votes to help out, Trump goes and utters the crap hole comment, and all hell breaks loose. This is what he writes. So now he's going back to, okay, Trump calling these countries, third world countries, crap holes. You know, he used a different word. Where's that at? Remember all the hoopla? He just, in his own words, all hell breaks loose. Okay, all hell broke loose. What's the outcome? Trump's numbers continue to rise. And you know what the outcome was? Almost everybody went, well, he's right. Even we had 2 African leaders who said, President Trump is right. President Trump he calls it right. There are many countries in Africa that are doing bad. And I'm looking at these guys admit, yeah, we got it bad. The president of Zimbabwe came out and said, President Trump's right. He's calling it as it is. Were they offended? The Africans were not offended. Then he says this. 2 GOP senators, Tom Cotton and David Perdue of Georgia, impugn the integrity of the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, Dick Durbin, and thus the atmosphere severely poisoned, thus hindering chances to work together on things like infrastructure and immigration. Let me explain to the Democrats and the knuckleheads listening, the Democrats listening to my program. What's going to happen in infrastructure and immigration is going to happen regardless of you. Donald Trump will get his immigration bill passed. He will build a wall. He will end chain migration. He will end the visa lottery, whether you like it or not. This
is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
You going to buy the new Michelle Obama book? Comes out on November the 13th. Right after the 2018 elections, right? Is she anticipating good timing? What? I don't know. Welcome, everybody. Kevin Jackson. It's the Kevin Jackson Show. KJRadio.com, 844-551-8255. I suspect most of my audience will not be buying Michelle Obama's book. However, I do know this. There are people who want to buy it. They will buy it in order to support the sister, and they're going to try to make it a huge book. It's got to be bigger than Barack, certainly bigger than anything that Ann Coulter does or Sarah Palin or things like that. There are people out there going, we got to get this book just to make, it's going to be the Black Panther of books. She tweeted it on Sunday. The book's going to come out a week after the 2018 midterm elections. It's called Becoming. They said by Sunday night, her memoir was in the top 20 on Amazon.com. Her memoir was in the top 20. It should have been number 1. We're talking about Michelle Obama in the top 20. That's almost a slap in the face. Her memoir was in the top 20. The top 20, the top 5, the top 3, number 1. What are we talking about here? Let me tell you what we're talking about here, folks. Signs. I don't know. I don't have the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you this question. What do you think Melania's book would do if she had one out right about now? Called Becoming. Becoming First Lady. Immigrant First Lady. From supermodel to superwoman. I got a lot of titles. Maybe I'll just write that ghost. I'll ghost write that book. It'll have to do better than mine. And I'll write funny, good books. And people, man, speaking of which, racepimping.com, doggone it. I don't beat you guys up with pimping my book, do I? I don't every 5 minutes go, yeah, like I said in my book. Yeah, like I said in my book. Did I mention my book? Racepimping.com. But if I wrote Melania's book, she'd do well. I believe that. I believe the book would do well. I believe people are interested in her. I believe she would be in the top 5 at the very least if Melania released a book. If she said the real inside dirt of the campaign, and it was like all the things that the press did and all that, man, and she teased it with some good stuff, woo, I might buy it. What about Donald Trump? What if Donald Trump wrote a book that said, let me give you my take on what happened during my run to the presidency? You think it would open in the top 20, or do you think it would be number 1? What do you think? What do you guys think? Seriously. Number 1, right? Exactly. What, you don't think it's top 3 at least, correct? Okay. And I think you would concede the likelihood of it being number 1. What could supersede it? while we're on the subject. I'm talking about producers. What could supersede it? I don't know of anybody. Barack Obama, nobody cares about him anymore. Bernie Sanders, who could write a book that would make you go, I'd read that book over. Even Denzel. I wouldn't read Denzel's book over what Trump would have to say about his inside of his election, giving us some insights. What was really going on with my strategy? Can you imagine a book like that? The real inside scoop of the Trump strategy. Democrats would buy that book, wanting to know, what did he do? Oh my goodness, what? Let's find out what Donald Trump did so we can thwart it next time. Here's what Michelle Obama says. Writing Becoming has been a deeply personal experience. It has allowed me for the very first time the space to honestly reflect on the unexpected trajectory of my life. In this book, I talk about my roots and how a little girl from the south side of Chicago found her voice and developed the strength to use it to empower others. I hope my journey inspires readers to find the courage to become whoever they aspire to be. It's whomever, just FYI, Miss First Lady. I can't wait to share my story. Her story. Let me tell you Michelle Obama's story. She married a scoundrel Negro for a husband, half Negro, and he carried her big buttocks on his back to where she became a household word. That's it in a nutshell. If that's inspiring to you, congratulations. Michelle Obama is a disgraced lawyer, no longer practicing. Some people say disbarred. I'm not sure. But I know she no longer practices, and she's let her law license lapse. She cannot practice the bar unless she jumps through hoops, and neither can her husband. And I know for the first time in my adult life, I will never forget that statement of a person who her husband wins the election, and then she's proud of the country. I don't think I've would ever hear a first lady say something so insane. But that's Michelle Obama. Said she and her husband, former President Barack Obama, last year reached a joint agreement with Penguin Random House for their respective books. The deal is believed to be in excess of $30 million. Becoming will be released in the U.S. through Crown Publishing Group, a Penguin Random House division that has published works by both Obamas. Now, here's what's interesting about this statement. Originally, when they were talking about how much money these people made, it was supposed to be $50-60 million, the biggest publishing deal in history. And suddenly they say, no, it's about 30 million. It's in excess of 30 million. They've already watered that down by half. I'm telling you, buyer's remorse I sense here. They go on to say this. Memoirs by first ladies usually sell well with notable works including Laura Bush's Spoken from the Heart, Hillary Clinton's Living Story. Hers is expected to be a major commercial and cultural event. She's admired around the world and never has told her story at length. Her previous book was 2012, Working on Gardening, American Grown. 24 languages they're going to publish this book in, from Swedish to Arabic. I thought Swedish was Arabic now. Michelle Obama expects to promote Becoming in the U.S. and overseas. She's going to narrate the audio version, and according to Crown, she's working on with a team of assistants, but that every word in the finished text will be hers. So there you go. You got that to look forward to. Woohoo! There's a 2018 November thing, a November surprise. I can see people right now going, "Get mine on pre-order." Right, fellas? You going to pre-order yours? Oh, man. As First Lady of the United States, the first African-American to serve in that role, she helped create the most welcoming and inclusive White House in history. Woo, they can spin anything, can't they? Deep reflection and mesmerizing storytelling. Because that Michelle Obama can spin a yarn. I tell you what. Woo. I'm curious to see how well received it is. It's going to be like Black Panther. You can't say anything bad about Michelle Obama's book. It was written in crayon. We got a lot to talk about, folks. Why didn't the police shoot Cruz? That's a question on people's minds.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanyourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. So I was at CPAC, just kind of waiting around, people taking pictures with me and stuff. And then I see a guy sticks his hand out and says, "Hey, Kevin." And I looked up, and it's Michael Flynn Jr., Michael Flynn's son. And I was like, "What's up, man? How's your pops?" He says, "Oh, he's doing good. He's doing good." I said, "Well, hey, anything we can do to help, let me know." He said, "Dude, I appreciate that." We had seen each other. We met. First time I ever met him, saw him at Cleveland at the Republican convention, spent time with him and his father. We talked politics for a little bit. And one meeting, he sees me at CPAC and says, "What's up, my brother?" And we had a heart-to-heart. And you know what? He's in the driver's seat. He knows it. I asked him, he says he can't talk about it. But I'm telling you, I can read body language, and the Flynn family is about to get their pound of flesh from the left. I said, "Look, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but because you have been wronged and you have the ability to get discovery from Mueller, let's just say there's a big, fat, 8-figure book deal in this." Woo! It was interesting to find that out. Hey, speaking of which, there's a lawsuit going on with the school in St. Louis, MICDS, this very prestigious high school. I think it's a junior high and high school, but it's about to be sued. And here's what's funny about it. One of my friends, who's a very wealthy man, he says to me, I was on a team call with a group of people, and they said, "Yeah, this family's taking their younger daughter out of the school because they're tired of the social justice stuff, but they're leaving their daughter, who's a junior or a senior, in because they figure she's pretty much done. So it's, they don't care, but they're not going to send any more kids to that school." And so I didn't know who this was. I'm on the phone with 40 different families who are mad about what's going on at this private school where they are kowtowing to progressivism, leftism, stupidism, moronism. And so I don't know who this person is. So I talked to this friend of mine who's also been working on this thing, very wealthy man. He says to me, "Oh, because see, when the lady said we're taking the other daughter out, the school just said, well, make sure she leaves her iPad," and that was it. They didn't say, "Is there a reason? Is there something we can do? We're really upset that things aren't going out." They said nothing. So when my friend called, he says, "Kevin, that's a bigger deal than you think." And I went, "How so?" He goes, "That family has given 9 figures to the school. I went, what did you say? He says that family's donated 9 figures, over $100 million, to that school. Now, I don't know how y'all are, but let me just say, if you're a person and you have donated 9 figures to me, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to figure out what it is that we, where we screwed up to where you want to pull your kids out of my organization or whatever else. Now, if it's completely off base and you're trying to buy me because, you think you can compromise me, take your money. But if it's something you have a legitimate case about, I'm going to talk to you. That's not just because of the money. Just to be blunt, if you leave my organization for any reason, I want to talk to you and find out what was the issue. That's just the nature of me. But if you're a 9-figure donor to me, which I have nobody anywhere close to that. I don't have 8 figures, 7 figures. I do have 6-figure donors, but I don't have anything larger than that. But a 9-figure donor, I'm going to find out what's going on. They didn't even care. Can you imagine having such a large endowment or having so much money going into your school that you can say to a 9-figure donor, make sure your daughter turns in her laptop? Wow. Crazy world, folks. Here's another thing that's crazy that's along the same lines. By the way, there's a group of parents looking to sue the school because they're going, we pay $30,000 a year so you can teach our kids how to be social justice idiots? No, we want them to taught regular course curriculum. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. This story is interesting. Lawyers gathered at the Atlanta office of a big law firm were debating a head-scratching legal question. What does the emoji known as amuse face actually mean? They couldn't even agree that the emoji in question, it has raised eyebrows and a frown, looked unamused. Everyone said something different, recalls Morgan Clemens, a 33-year-old regulatory compliance lawyer at Aldrich Pitt LLP, who organized the gathering last summer at Bryan Cave LLP called Emoticon Law 101. She didn't even know that's what the emoji was named. I don't think many of us in this room ever thought that's what it was. Emojis, tiny pictures of facial expressions or objects used in text messages, emails, and on social media are no longer a laughing matter, that they report, for the legal profession. Increasingly, there are bones of contention in lawsuits ranging from business disputes to harassment to defamation. In one Michigan defamation dispute, the meaning of an emoticon, an emoji-like image created with text characters from a standard keyboard, was up for debate. A comment on the internet message board appeared to accuse a local official of corruption. It was followed by the $:P emoticon. The judges on the Michigan Court of Appeals concluded in 2014 that the emoticon is used to represent a face with its tongue sticking out to denote a joke or sarcasm. The court said in a comment, couldn't be taken seriously or viewed as defamatory because he used an emoticon that stuck his tongue out like, Now, here's what I think you should find interesting. We're talking about emoticons in the context of you can be sued if you send the wrong one, or it can be misconstrued if you send the wrong one. Can you imagine if you say to your secretary, hey, Linda, could you please look into that? I appreciate how you handled things the other day. Wink, or a smiley face, or you picked the embarrassed emoticon versus the more business-like one, or maybe you picked the cowboy or the clown, or you put a wine glass or whatever. That is how crazy the world has become. People want to sue you based on your emoticon. He used the wrong emoticon. It denoted something completely different. It wasn't sarcasm. It was snarkiness. I'm just telling you, the world around you has eroded. And you can get mad at me for telling you the truth about things, but this is where we are right now. We are looking at emoticons as potential for lawsuit. When I tell you that the government, leftism particularly, will look for reasons to get you upset. I get emoticon. You know what happens when I get an emoticon on my phone? I don't even know what it is. It's too little. I don't know if you can make them any bigger. Maybe you can. I know you can to text. But it's too little. And let's say it was a blushing emoticon versus a kiss-blowing emoticon. I'm not going to sue somebody over that. Oh, what are you trying to say? You were embarrassed to send your message to me? I don't understand it. But this is where we are.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
What's up, everybody? Kevin Jackson here. They are blaming this Parkland shooting on toxic masculinity. Did you hear me? Toxic masculinity. If I ever start a boy band, that's what I'm going to call it. Toxic masculinity. My, bye, 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 but we don't want no women around. Toxic masculinity. Oh my goodness, what about toxic femininity? Is there such a thing? Can such a thing exist? You know, I was looking at the feminist movement and what it's evolved into. The feminist in America used to be women who said, my husband is going to respect me as a woman, respect our children, be a good family man, blah, blah, blah. Now it's become the hairy armpit crowd, you know, who do nothing except sit around hanging with each other, promoting the L of the LGBT situation and complaining about men, the misandrists of the world that hate men. Toxic masculinity. Toxic femininity is what's ruined America. What's ruined the world. I was watching some movie. What was it? I can't remember what it was, but it was like all the guys in this film were just dumb, and the woman was the one who was the best with the martial arts thing. You know what it was? It was one of these Marvel Comics things. And the girl beat up a bunch of dudes because she was the martial arts instructor. And don't misunderstand me. I've worked out with some martial arts instructor females who are bad to the bone. Absolutely will destroy the average dude. But they can't beat the baddest guys in the dojo. They just flatly can't. And I know some very, very amazing martial arts women. Really do. Anyway, toxic masculinity is what they're blaming this on. So there was a story that's been circulating. Why didn't the police shoot Nicholas Cruz? And Constitution.com reported this. They said for the last week or so, the entire nation has been talking about gun control, or at least the media has. The sudden tsunami of gun control stories, articles, op-eds, and segments is a result of the terrible mass shooting that took place at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Sadly, the focus on gun control has caused the media and the people who get their news from the media to miss the far larger scandal revolving around Douglas High School. So here's what they go on to talk about. Now they're not talking about the officers who didn't run into the building and all this other stuff. They're not talking about the scandal at the FBI about who knew about Nicholas Cruz and his desires for mayhem and violence. They write this. The story begins 6 years ago in Miami-Dade County, just south of Broward, where the school district was struggling to succeed. And all of the data painted a picture of a failing school district. The district noticed that larger portions of the school populations were being arrested at a higher proportion than the rest of their community. And they realized that if they could cut down on the criminality of their students, they could improve the data coming out of their schools. Now, this isn't just happening in Miami, Broward, and all that. Keep this in mind. I talked about this in Chicago schools where they say we can't put any more, the bad marks, if you will, on black folks, black kids in school. When you reach the threshold, you must stop. So back to this article, it says the district entered into a relationship with local police and concluded a deal that would ensure that the police would stop arresting many of their students. Within a year or two, surrounding communities began to notice the change in Miami-Dade's fortune, which included a new influx of money. And Broward County decided it was time they entered into a similar deal with the local police force. What I'm telling you, folks, is the leftists cook the books. There's more crime in schools than you can imagine. There's more crimes in communities than gets reported. They cooked the books with the police. For what? Tax dollars. So the Broward County School Board and the district superintendent entered into a political agreement with Broward County's law enforcement officials to stop arresting students for crimes. And the motive was simple. The school system's administrators wanted to improve their statistics. They would get state and federal grant money from the improvements therein. So cooking the books meant more dollars. Doesn't mean there was less crime. Doesn't mean, for example, when they cook the books and tell you, hey, our students come to class, they graduate. They cook the books on the grades. They cook the books on attendance. All to get money. And to pretend that the students are better for it. Students are getting less education. They're in a much more dangerous environment, and the schools continue to get money thrown at them. He says in the article, it's important to remember this was not an arbitrary change. It was a well-planned, fundamental shift in the entire dynamic of how teenagers would be treated when they engaged in criminal conduct. Now, that's going to make a lot more sense here in a little bit. I want you to consider. A kid goes out, he does something, commits a crime, and it starts out as just misdemeanors. You know, shoplifting this, minor vandalism, things like that. We talked about it the other day. And the police excuse these behaviors. But then they start excusing felonies, violent crimes, assault, armed robbery, far worse. I mentioned it the other day. A lot of girls are actually raped at school. Now, you can see how this is going to cause problems because it's one thing to overlook the small things, but as we've learned, if you pay much attention to criminal justice, people tend to escalate. If there are no consequences, they say, well, they'll let me do this, maybe I'll try this. And they keep ratcheting it up. So, once the system seems to be working, the district needed the police to continue lowering arrests year over year. So the police were being forced to excuse more and more criminal acts that were increasing in severity. You can understand this problem's not going to go away. If I'm getting away with one thing and you let me, and then there's no consequence, and I get away with it again and again and again, I'm going to go, you know what? This is pretty much a license to steal, pardon the pun. So in the years that followed, youth crime in Miami-Dade and Broward is growing steadily worse. And an odd quota system developed. And once a certain number of high school students had been arrested in the county, leadership would make sure that the other crimes that were committed were being excused. Exactly what happened in Chicago. By the way, if you think this is limited to Miami-Dade and Broward County and Cook County area, you are sadly mistaken. This is going on all over the country. Once educators find out how to get money, they send out the bell, ding, 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 ding. Everybody starts cashing in. And that's exactly what's happened. So, they commit more crimes. They begin planning their biggest, more important activities later in the month, later in the quarter, at times when schools were collecting their data for reporting. And in this way, gangs could take advantage of committing crimes at a time when police would be most likely to give high school age kids a pass. You follow? It's kind of like when you buy a car and they say, do you buy the car at the first of the month? No, you wait until the end of the month. Do you buy a car in the middle of the year? No, you wait until the end of year model year clearance. That's when you buy. That's when you get the best deal. These kids, these gangbangers, everybody knows exactly when they hit that quota number. And they say, that's it. So that's what's happened here, folks. You're finding out what's really, going on with this school shooting. These guys were, I'm not saying they were at the quota number and they went, okay, well, we got to let this guy kill and we'll be able to sweep it under the rug. But you got a police system, a corrupt system now that's in cahoots with the school, and they're going, do we go in? What do we do to this guy? How are we going to cover this up? Look, I don't know all the details around this, but what I'm telling you is it escalated to this point. If you wonder why this guy, these 4 deputies, is supposedly waited outside of the school watching Nicholas Cruz go in and start shooting and still not go in, this is probably a pretty good indicator. This guy continues, with the intricate nature of the relationship between the police and schools, it became vital that the school resource officers placed at schools understood how the symbiotic relationship between the district and the police was supposed to work. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. They needed these school resource officers who were adept at ensuring that criminal activities of the students would not be reported as crimes and endanger the district's political and financial futures. It is these guys are liaisons between the money, is what it amounts to. So this demonized student resource officer, school resource officer, Scott Peterson, who stood outside the school, probably refused to share information on the shooter and social services back in 2016 for exactly the reason I just explained.
Kevin Jackson on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Memo to the White House: you cannot avoid us. Stop trying to dodge us. This briefing needs to begin. It was supposed to begin an hour and 15 minutes ago, and then it was supposed to begin 25 minutes ago. There was a lot to talk about.
Welcome, everybody. That was CNN threatening Donald Trump. You can run, but you cannot hide. Donald Trump's been all over the news. CPAC, there was more media than you could shake a stick at CPAC. You won't have a press conference with us. Where have you been? You're late. Do you know Barack Obama, there's a thing called CPT, colored people time. Barack Obama was historically late. I'm talking about so much so it just became the norm. I remember joking about it early on, saying, man, let a brother get the presidency, and the first thing he does is make people wait. He lives up to the stereotype of colored people time. And Trump, I don't know who was supposed to be out there, but you can run. But what, is Trump afraid of CNN, the fake news network? Come on, people, please. What is he waiting on? He needs to come out and explain this Russia thing. No, he doesn't. It's over. These people, they don't, you know what's sad? When people don't even realize it's over. I don't know if you've ever been in a fight like this where, somebody wants to fight you and you're like, look, I don't want to fight you. Just leave me alone. You try to walk away, and finally it's a fight, and you just, pow, and you knock them out. If you've ever knocked somebody out fast, you know what I'm talking about. There are people listening to my show who are friends of mine in the martial arts or just good boxers or whatever. You've done this. You knock somebody out, and they hit the ground, and they get up, and they can't believe they were out. Maybe you've seen a fight. If you haven't been in one, you've seen a fight like this where the guy's been knocked out. He's like, what? What happened? And they're like, you got knocked out. I didn't. No, I did. What are you talking about? And they're picking him up. And the other guy's then walking away, and he's like, no, you get back here, man. This isn't over. This is not over. And you're going, Everybody around him's going, yeah, it's over. It's over, buddy. It's over. I mean, unless you just enjoy embarrassment, it's over. You get that lippy, and just pow, and let me tell you, having been on the end that delivers the beating, where you go, you've bothered me so much that I'm just gonna have to take care of business. And it's over like that, lights out. And it's, most people get it, but I'm saying occasionally, and it happens in the ring more often than anywhere, because you've been a trained fighter, and you think you're going to get the best of a guy, and they call them flash knockdowns. Boom, you get knocked down. Well, in this case, knocked out, and then somebody wakes you up, and you're like, what happened? And they're trying to tell you, and you blanked out for 15 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever it is, and you think game on. What are you talking about? Why is everybody leaving the ring? Fight's still going on. No, it's over. Folks, it's over for the Democrats. What I just described has happened. The media has been knocked the blank out. You know what I'm saying? Donald Trump's knocked them out. If you don't believe me, how much credibility do you give them? May I answer for you? Very little. You don't give the media much credibility. You're like, whatever. So they're knocked out. Do you give the Democrat Party, how much credibility do you give Adam Schiff? How much credibility do you think Chuck Schumer has right now? Now, are they going to continue to fight their little battles? The Supreme Court sent back Donald Trump's thing on DACA to the states, to the courts. And what do you think is going to happen? If I were Donald Trump, I'd just issue an executive order that supersedes DACA and say, now what are you going to do? If you can do one, you can't do that. I don't know what it's going to happen, but it'll be done on a technicality. And eventually, this is going to end up right where it is, and you're going to know what you're going to be telling me. Kevin, they were knocked the blank out. It doesn't matter what the policy is. It doesn't make sense. Hardly anything these people do makes any sense at all logically, and all it is delaying the executioner. Go ahead, folks. Have your fun. Can't avoid you. You want to have some fun? Here's what MSNBC had to say about Donald Trump as it pertains to the Russians.
Demand that the President of the United States lead a response to the most serious attack on an American democracy. That's what leadership is. That's what we expect of our president. And that's the kind of responsibility that the president has, not merely to acknowledge things that are happening. That is the minimum, which I think your clips illustrate Trump has not cleared. We actually expect him to mobilize an effective response, and he's not done that. In fact, not only has he not done that, he actually has tried to roll back or at least flirted publicly with rolling back the punishments that the Obama administration put in place against Russia for interfering in our election.
Exactly the opposite of what the White House press secretary was saying to reporters, which is incredible. What I find incredible is the question, Joe, what does Russia have on Donald Trump? I mean, it must be fantastic.
Okay, first of all,
it must be huge. It must be so dirty. It must be just unbelievably just wrenching to him to think that they are holding this information about him that they have on him, and they just at any point could drop it if he says the wrong thing. It must drive him nuts. What do they have on him?
Is this the opening of Saturday Night Live?
No, what do they have?
Did I get transported to that set?
Can you imagine he's being driven crazy? Literally.
What do I meet him?
What do they have on him?
What does he say? So, first of all, I need to talk about really quickly.
You say what you said last night. You said, what do they have on him?
Even Joe Scarborough didn't even want to answer that. He was like, I told you that as a joke, as like foreplay or something. I don't know what he was talking about, because even that was just too crazy for him. He couldn't even respond. What an unbelievable. And so, you listen to these clowns looking for supposedly looking for ways to connect Donald Trump. I was early in the broadcast, I talked about some guy who's gave every reason why Donald Trump will serve out 7 years as president of the United States and change politics forever. And he's telling us 2018 is going to be a bad year for Republicans. How so? I'd love to know how so. Let me tell you where this all circles back to, folks. It all circles back to Barack Obama. You're watching things happen. You don't know they're happening, but they're happening. We did a story earlier about Michelle Obama and the book deal they got. It used to be $60 million. Now they're saying it's north of $30 million. Well, what is the number? Are they half as invested in it? I've asked questions throughout the broadcast today. Who do you think is going to campaign with Obama? Who do you think is going to take say, bring in Barack Obama? Can you name me one politician on the left who says, I want to willingly have Hillary Clinton come campaign on my behalf? Name me one. There's going to be a bunch of them running. Who? Here's what Nunez had to say about Barack Obama and where all this Russia stuff is going to end up.
So just a few facts that people forget. One, we did a reset. We hit a reset button with Hillary Clinton. Then we said that we were going to pivot to Asia because we were going to be friends with the Russians. We went through a whole European infrastructure consolidation process of our military installations across Europe. We abandoned a lot of our capability in the North Atlantic in order to track Russian subs. We actually had the President of the United States who said on a hot mic to the Prime Minister of Russia at the time, didn't know the mic was hot, and said, hey, just tell Vladimir that I have to wait till after the election. That was the President Obama who said that. At the same time, Mitt Romney in 2012 said that Russia was a grave threat, and President Obama had that great line. It was really funny at the time. All the media laughed about it, made fun of Romney, that the 80s wanted their foreign policy back, something like that. Everybody laughed. So, who created this Russian threat? It was the last administration who put us in this position. But here's the kicker to all of this. It culminated finally with great frustration on my part, where in April of 2016, just months before the election, I came out and said on national television that the biggest intelligence failure since 9/11 was our failure to understand Putin's plans and intentions. This was in April of 2016.
Folks, a lot of bad things happened on the left. Welcome back, Kevin Jackson here. That's who you're listening to, The Kevin Jackson Show, KJRadio.com. Donald Trump tweeted this on the Democratic FISA memo. A lot of bad things happened on the other side. What they did was really fraudulent, and someone should be looking into that. And by someone, I mean you know who. Let me tell you something, folks. You have finally gotten it right. And you're being vindicated every single day. You should take pride in the work that you've done in eradicating this crooked government and helping Donald Trump drain the swamp. But we got a lot more work to do. I got to leave it there today.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.